How do you at the Dustin School help your teachers become subject knowledge experts?
Yeah, what do? We, on one front, we give the lion's share of directed time to departments. And thinking about, if we go with middle leaders first, we spent, if I just completely rewind to kind of almost the beginning, I suppose, of the Dustin journey. And I know we've talked before about how the first year was about the culture, the climate, the ethos of the school and getting behaviour right. Simultaneously, while we were doing that, we were training middle leaders in what a knowledge-rich curriculum looks like. And we did that in a number of guises. We did an initial, I guess the best way to put it is a quality assurance kind of dip into the curriculum to look at it, to look at the model of assessment that we were using, which was heavily skills driven. And we had PLCs in Key Stage 3, which are those giant provision placemats with, you go from anywhere from emerging to mastery, and it's all skills that are color coded. And I sat individually with middle leaders and asked them, what does this mean to you? What does this mean to your department? What does this mean about the progress pupils are making within your subject domain? And got quite a lot of blank comments and expressions back, in all honesty, of we don't really know. It's something that's just brought in, being really, really honest. So we spent time with middle leaders discussing just what a knowledge-rich curriculum is. We then spent, I would say, the best part of about 18 months training middle leaders through our middle leader meetings. So in terms of the meeting structures in the school, we meet ordinarily with middle leaders once a fortnight. And if I cast my mind to previous schools I've worked in, most middle leader meetings tend to be one-way traffic. It's a senior leader directing instructions and orders to middle leaders to action with certain timeframes. We kind of flipped that on its head, and we turned them into training sessions around the curriculum. So we started right at the beginning. What is a curriculum? What does a curriculum mean? What are the different types of curriculum that are out there? And really went through kind of the nuts and bolts basics. But over an 18-month window, built it up incrementally to look at educational theory and theorists. So Rosenshine, Shimara, etc. As examples. We talked about how you would construct and weave a curriculum together. We read academic blogs and journals as a middle management team with myself as the senior leader, because by and large I was orchestrating these meetings or training sessions. And I had obviously senior.
Is this all middle leaders together, all senior leaders together?
This is senior leaders and middle leaders, as in subject middle leaders, all together.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got like heads of subject, heads of department, heads of faculty, and my senior management team. So it was dual training for both layers of the school, that middle leadership layer and that senior leadership layer. But that was really, really important, because then you've got people singing off the same hymn sheet and hearing the same thing. And being really honest, some of it was really repetitive, but deliberately, because we're trying to get the same messages over and over and over into my middle leaders. We brought in at the time Mark Lehane from the PTE. He came in a couple of times to talk about knowledge rich, which is something that he's a big advocate of. And I know he's not involved in education the same way anymore, because he's gone on into the world of politics, I believe. But that was really useful to the staff. We brought in Christine Council to do a training session in terms of the curriculum from a senior and middle leader perspective. But also we were attached to, and we still are, to 2 teaching school alliances. So what we did is we brought in, and I was very fortunate in that a good friend of mine was head of one of these teaching school alliances, very specific key people to come and work with my middle leaders in school to analyse and assess not the teachers themselves, but the curriculum and the delivery of the curriculum, without naming names of individual staff, as a collective. What is it actually collectively doing? And is it doing what it needs to do? Because the school was in, as I've articulated before, and we've talked before, not in a place where we wanted it to be. But that was really powerful, because we're bringing in highly experienced SLEs and NLEs as well to come and support my middle leaders. So it's kind
of
a
subject specific.
Yeah,
presumably match.
Yeah, because I can't cover every subject. I can give the overview of this is what curriculum's like and a lot of the leadership style input, but the actual nuts and bolts specifics of subjects, even if I thought I was on the right, the right pathway, saying to say science, I think you need to structure it like this. I still needed that subject specific lens. Otherwise,
I think that's something many schools struggle with.
Yeah,
you know, their leadership team will have a little, a mixed match of what they've got, but where do they get the other expertise from?
And I guess what helped in my school is we've got a big senior team. There are 11 of us, including myself. We cover almost everything apart from MFL as a team.
Interesting.
And I changed the way in which line management was working from a senior management perspective to a middle leader perspective, so that I attached basically the subject specialists, senior leaders, to the right departments, which is something that the school hadn't done before. I understood the kind of logic. Sorry?
It's nice to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a real luxury, and not every senior team can do that. And I've worked in senior teams where there's just simply aren't enough of us or enough expertise across the piece to be able to do that. But when you've got that open to you, I think it's worth doing, of course. But then you need to know that your senior team have been trained appropriately to be able to do that. And then other elements in terms of that wider curriculum understanding amongst the middle and the senior leader layer was to get out on the road. So we visited, one of the better phrase, the powerhouse schools, your Magnas, your Michaelas, your Dixons, Bedford Free School. We identified about 14 or 15 schools that we wanted to gain knowledge from. Well, I wouldn't say you necessarily emulate, because I think that then means you're losing your identity and you're trying to carbon copy yourself. But where could we go where we could learn lots of invaluable lessons, good, bad, or indifferent from? And middle leaders went out on the road as well. We allowed them to do that, and actually teaching staff. We were very open with staff. If you want to go and visit school, do. So another example was we had 5 members of staff who are actually all from the English faculty, which is a huge faculty, went to the Harper Trust in Bedfordshire, which is a very big set of private schools, to look at pupil aspirations and what they do to get pupils ready for top universities. Because again, that was something as well that the school where I work was lacking. But that was really powerful, because it's about shifting mindsets. If there are certain things that if we do them in a set way, will actually make a phenomenal and monumental difference to our curriculum delivery. So none of this at the moment is about subject knowledge, and I apologise, but this is kind of the groundwork to allow subject knowledge to happen. And what I wanted to get my middle leaders to was a position where that they could simply run departmental meetings themselves without having to touch base with me every 2 seconds, without the institutional, you must cover these 10 things this week, which normally what you get from middle leader meeting is you've got the head or the deputy, curriculum deputy, normally saying, this week we want X, Y, and Z covered in your departmental meeting over the next 3 weeks. Make sure you do it, and make sure you fill in the spreadsheet and report back. I didn't want that, because I don't think that's actually very fruitful. I wanted to build the confidence of the middle leaders to understand how to craft a curriculum. And actually what's the focus of our departmental meetings are curriculum design, subject knowledge, co-planning, nothing else. Because actually, ultimately, that's what makes the difference. And we've stripped back the number of data captures in the year. We've gone from being in a position where we had 6 data captures a year when I joined, to 3, now to 2. And the world continues to evolve on its axis with fewer data captures. And I think actually it's more fruitful to have less, because it means more, perversely, which goes against the grain of a lot of what we believe about data. And I want the conversations to be around the efficacy of the curriculum, not what does the data tell us. Data is useful, of course it is, but it shouldn't be the driver for everything. So there's that element. And then the other aspect with our middle leaders is that we sent a large number of them out onto MPQs, so MPQ ML for kind of the more junior middle leaders, and MPQ SL for some of the more seasoned middle leaders. And the same with the senior management team. A number of the senior leaders ended up doing NPQSL, NPQH, and we have a couple doing master degrees, and one member of the senior team doing an MBA, which is normally something an executive head would do.
And were all of those senior leaders and middle leaders, were they asked to focus on curriculum in their projects off the back of it?
Predominantly, yeah. Everything should be about the curriculum delivery ultimately, and everything has been brought back to our curriculum design and drive. Because again, thinking about the priority in that first year, let's get the culture, the climate, the ethos, that was already kind of being dealt with. The middle leaders as in subject middle leaders, didn't need to worry about that in the way that they might have had to have done before, when it was left to your own devices and for want of a better phrase, almost a sense of natural selection across the school.